Hi everybody, my name is Nina Zagaretti. I am part of the YHE Youth Health Education Club, and today I will be talking to you all about the nervous system. And so the nervous system, I'll get more into about what it is, what it contains, as well as some of the diseases that are involved in this. Okay, so the nervous system includes your CNS and your PNS. And this is a bit of your medical jargon, but to break it down, CNS means your central nervous system, and the PNS means your peripheral nervous system. And I'll get more into this as we go later through this slide deck. So, your nervous system is essentially the engine of your body. So, it controls what the body does, both involuntarily and voluntarily. So, some examples of this include your breathing, your release of hormones, keeping the body standing up straight, and this is because it includes a spinal cord, as well as sending info to the rest of your body through neurons. Okay, so some of the anatomy. So some of the parts of the brain include the brainstem. And so the brainstem is your control center for a lot of your important involuntary actions of the body. So these include breathing, heartbeat, your blood pressure, and many of your reflexes. Next, we have the cerebrum, and so this is the main part of the brain that receives stimuli, and it converts these stimuli into actions. And so this part of the brain also holds the information for our daily life activities. Next, continuing in the anatomy of the nervous system, we have the cerebellum, which is the part of the brain that helps you maintain your balance, as well as helping coordinate your movements, your vision, and your motor movements. Then we have the diencephalon, and so what this part of the brain does is that it relays sensory information between different brain regions, as well as control many autonomic functions. And so diving deeper into this part of the brain, what it does is that it connects structures of your endocrine system, which is a system that helps you release hormones, and it connects this system with your nervous system and works with the limbic system. So this is working with your emotions, and it uses all of these structures and these systems together to help you generate and manage your emotions and memories. And finally, we have we also have the spinal cord. And so the spinal cord is your long, fragile, tube-like structure that goes from the end of your brainstem to near the bottom of your spine. And so this spinal cord not only has bones, but it also has nerves that relay the messages between the CNS and the PNS, which we'll get into afterwards. And so now we're going to get into the two systems. We have the CNS and the PNS. So the CNS, once again, stands for the central nervous system, and then you have your PNS, which stands for the peripheral nervous system. And so if you look at the little visual that we have here, the CNS is composed of the brain and the spinal cord, while the PNS is composed of your cranial nerves, your spinal nerves, and your peripheral nerves. And so the CNS also contains relay neurons, which are also known as interneurons, while the PNS, your peripheral nervous system, contains sensory and motor neurons. So let's get a little bit into that. Okay, so the CNS, the central nervous system, it consists of the brain and the spinal cord, and it receives all of the stimuli from the PNS and tells the body to react based on what it receives. So the PNS sends out the stimuli, and the CNS receives that, and it further develops actions, telling the body to react based off of the stimuli that it receives. And so now the PNS, the peripheral nervous system. And so this consists of all the nerves and ganglia outside the CNS and controls your automatic reactions to the body. And so let's get a bit into the brain, since that's the main show of the nervous system. So the brain is made up of over 100 billion neurons, and there are three main types of neurons, and so let's get into that a little bit. So first we have the sensory neurons, and so as it's named, sensory neurons take what the body feels, what it senses, and turns it into an electrical impulse that can be sent to the brain. And so these are the cars on the road of signals to the body. So these are the ones that send in that stimuli to the brain. And what it feels, it sends that to the brain. Next, we have the interneurons, and so these transmit impulses from neuron to neuron. So these are kind of like your third-party mergers, so they transport all the information and the impulses from one neuron to the next neuron. And then we have the motor. These are located on the spinal cord, motor cortex, and brainstem, and so they form the pathway to the signals. So these are the ways that the signals are able to move to the brain, and these are, as I said before, these are the road to send signals to the brain from the body and vice versa. So these are the ones that will take the signals from the brain to the body, and then from the body to the brain and vice versa. Okay, and so now the brain also contains lobes, and so here are the four types of lobes in the brain. So first we have the frontal lobes, and so these are responsible for problem solving, judgment, and movement of the body. So your frontal lobe, essentially, it controls how well are you able to solve problems in a scenario, what is your case of judgment in a scenario, as well as movement in the body. So it really has a lot of responsibility. Then we have the parietal lobes, which are managing your senses, your writing, and the positioning of the body. Then you have your temporal lobes, and so these are involved with memory, and so these include both long-term and short-term memories, as well as hearing. And finally, we have your last lobe, which is your occipital lobes, and so they're sense of vision. And so as you can see in the visual here, these are where the 4 different lobes are located in the brain. And so communication in the brain is through neurotransmitters, and if you get more into biology, you'll learn about the K plus and Na plus pumps, that's your potassium and sodium pumps. And so that is a bit about the brain. Some of the most common diseases that include the nervous system includes Huntington disease, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, epilepsy, and there's so many more. But that's a bit about the brain. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.